Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission, a brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Hi, welcome to Journeys in Faith here on this Friday evening. And I want to wish all of you a happy new year. It's so great to be here with you. And I have an amazing guest, as I have had so many wonderful guests. And today is no exception, as I have Brian Caley. He is an author and a blogger and also a good friend of mine. So it's so great to have him with us. Brian, thank you for joining us on Journeys in Faith.
Thanks for having me, Anne. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking with you too. And you know, part of the reason I invited you to be on this show here on this Friday evening is that you have an amazing faith journey to share with people, and not everyone has heard it before. So please start us from the very beginning of where you started out with your faith life.
Okay, so starting from the very beginning, I was a cradle Catholic, brought up in a semi-lukewarm environment. We went to church here and there, but wasn't really super feeling the faith and things. Married life was okay for my parents and so on, and things took a turn for the worse when I was a freshman in high school and my father passed away rather suddenly from a cerebral aneurysm. And the adults in my life more or less didn't live up to what I was hoping they would be doing, and I was left wondering why. Why did God do this? Why is this happening to me and nobody else? Why, etc. So where God isn't, something else will always fill that particular void. So in my despair and haste, I turned to the darker things in life. I fell in with a pseudo-satanic crowd, practiced magic, listened to not nice music, did not nice things, blasphemed, rallied against God, you name it, I at least thought about it. So it's not something I'm proud of, but definitely something that I've come to terms with as part of my faith life. And after high school, I joined the Army, got away from all that. Turns out that was just a phase, thank God. And kind of fell into atheistic, agnostic, hey, maybe God's there, maybe he isn't, whatever type thing. But shortly thereafter deployed to Iraq for a year and a half, and it was then that I started to really think to myself, maybe there is something to all this, because when you're faced with one's mortality, you tend to think about these sorts of things. So when I came back from my deployment, I read up on things, talked to people about their faith, and really just tried grasping, looking for something to latch onto. And I got my answer in a letter from a non-denominational church that was addressed to my dead father, of all things. And I took that as a sign of, hey, maybe there is something to all this. So I went to said church and slowly but surely rebuilt my relationship with God, shed a lot of tears, said a lot of not nice things, let out a lot of feelings, and Again, not something I'm proud of, but it was part of the process. And as time went on, as every great story pivots, I met a woman. Name is Ruth, and she is now my lovely wife. And after we got married, I converted to her faith, which is Lutheran. And her church was very nice, very welcoming. They were lovely people. They still are. We're still great friends. But I still felt like I was missing something from my faith. So something was still not quite out of reach. And while this was going on, the not nice parts of my life were coming back to haunt me. There were not nice signs of things, stuff I'm not going to get into because it's a bit on the sensational side, but safe to say it wasn't good. But I felt like God was calling me to a little spot in Emmitsburg, Maryland called the Grotto of Lourdes. It's a mini replica of the Grotto of Lourdes in France. And I felt God was calling me there for some reason. So in February of one year in the ice and the snow, I drove down there, dragged myself up that icy hill, and there's a big stone cross at the top of the hill, a life-size Calvary scene. And there's a kneeler there, and I threw myself on said kneeler, and I said, okay, God, I am throwing myself on your tender mercies. I give up. I don't know what to do. And sure enough, as sure as I am talking to you and your lovely audience, I felt something leave me that day physically. Call it demonic oppression, call it great weight being lifted from your shoulders, call it what you will, but something definitely changed after that. And so I slowly but surely made my way back to the Catholic faith because it's a Catholic site. And I found on Facebook, of all places, a Catholics with Depression support group. And it was there and then I fell in love with my Catholic faith because I had such a loving outpouring of support of people who have gone through similar situations, similar things to what I went through. I was very surprised by that. And between that and getting my PTSD medications balanced, thanks to my lovely wife, things are a lot better. So I started my blog, the Behold Project, is kind of my way of giving back to that. I touch on a lot of different topics, a lot of different things, and my lovely wife and I are going to be celebrating our 8-year wedding anniversary in February. So yay, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I love to hear your story. And I have heard it more than once because you were a guest on another podcast that I host with Bill Snyder, a good friend of both yours and mine, on Patchwork Heart Ministry. And your story to me just touches my heart because I think there's not one person watching who hasn't been exposed to some kind of evil side in life. Now, it might not be the demonic side, exactly what you described, what you experienced in high school, but all of us have been on that side of kind of giving up and maybe not really believing as we should in our faith. So I just think it's a wonderful thing that you can share your story and how God brought you through from that time in high school and before that, around the time of your father's death to this point now where you can celebrate your faith. So thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now take us on the journey from that point there. You met your wife, Ruth, and that was 8 years ago. You are married now. So what has happened since that time in your faith life and also in your ministry?
So what happened was the Lutheran faith and the Lutheran church, they were very good to me, but like I said, I still felt like I was missing something. Like I felt unfulfilled for a number of reasons, and I just felt like I really needed to reach back to my Catholic roots. Like there was a certain level of comfort there that I said, okay, maybe there was something there that I wasn't quite grasping, beforehand. And when I started my ministry, I started out as a as a very Catholic focused sort of thing, kind of branched out, talking to other Christian denominations and things, and everybody has something to offer, which is a beautiful thing. You know, it's still mainly a Catholic site, of course. Mary, the Mother of Sorrows, is my patron and the site's patron, but you know, everybody has something to offer. Everyone has their own stories and things. You know, my wife has contributed an article or two from the Lutheran perspective on mental health and things. So, you know, we make a really good team, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that you and your wife are a team, and it's just a beautiful thing that you've worked together and been able to evangelize, because that's exactly what you're doing with your work that you've done. I know you've worked with me with Smart Catholics, and some people are familiar with smartcatholics.com. It's a wonderful platform for Catholics to share, and also conferences too. Brian, you shared with me the God is Mercy conference. So that was a wonderful thing, and you did a great job with your talk.
Thanks. Yeah, that was my first time doing something remotely close to that. So that was a big event in the Caley household. So I was very happy it went well. Met a lot of cool and exciting people. You know, it was great to be able to share that and to be a part of that and contribute something meaningful.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So let's kind of backtrack just a little bit, going back to the time in your high school years and maybe around in that era that you were tempted. I mean, you were tempted to not believe in God. You were tempted to go on the darker side of life. So tell us about that, if you would, because I'm sure that there's some people watching that have friends, relatives, kids, grandchildren who are delving into that. Would you have any words of advice for them?
Yeah. I believe it was St. Paul that said, "Don't give the devil a foothold." He means that very literally, even so much as dabbling into that sort of thing out of curiosity opens the door to very not nice things, because nature abhors a vacuum. Wherever God is, and something else is going to occupy that space. So if I had any advice I could give anybody that's listening that wanted to kind of sway people away from that sort of thing, you know, evil is meant to look attractive. It's supposed to be like, oh, it's power, you know, sex, gluttony, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it all looks attractive on the surface, but once it wears off, it's like, you know, it doesn't lead to anything. And that bottoming out happens sooner or later. It's only a matter of time. So yeah, definitely do everything you can to get them away from the occult, people that practice it, and people that are into that sort of thing, and just really talk with them about where that's coming from, because that sort of lifestyle, that sort of mindset doesn't exist, you know, just out of nowhere. That's coming from something. That's coming from a deep-seated hurt. Maybe they feel like God doesn't love them. Maybe they feel like, you know, their parents don't love them, or they feel ignored, neglected, you know, what have you. But yeah, get to the root of it and pull it up by the roots and get it out of there. Just do everything you can to get to the bottom of it, because, you know, God is love and mercy, and he doesn't want anybody to feel like they aren't loved. And, you know, the last thing he wants is for somebody to rail against God and be like, well, he doesn't love me, bah, you know, because nothing's further from the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's great advice, because, you know, I really do believe that this is touching not just people that are in deep, deep depression, but it's touching so many different families, even people who are of faith, right? I mean, I'm sure that you've seen that before with the work that you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
if I could interject there. Yeah, I've discovered over the course of my ministry that the devil is a bully. He picks on people that have mental illness because he perceives them as being weak, when in actuality nothing can be further from the truth. Or people that have that sort of thing are much, much stronger than they give themselves credit for. I've heard similar stories to mine. I've heard people that have had it worse than I do. I have one good friend who's actually had an exorcism done on her, and it's just crazy to think about, but it's 100% true. But yeah, she is one of the strongest, kindest people I know, and it's just mind blowing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I have known some people who have gone on that darker side, and you're right. I mean, they're usually people that were led into a wrong direction, but maybe they themselves, their personalities are usually very loving. And so God is there. God is there, right? I mean, it's just a matter of going into a better direction with Christ and going back to the faith, especially if you've walked away from it. So, Brian, I thank you so much. So tell us more about, I would love to know more about your conversion back to the sacraments, because I'm sure that you had to go back to confession and then back to Mass. So what was that all like for you?
Well, in my journey back to Catholicism, the first, foremost, and absolute thing I know I needed to do was go to confession, because that's the aside from the Eucharist, those are the two biggies right there, so to speak. And you can't take the Eucharist without going to confession first. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work, anyway. But yeah, my first confession after that, I unloaded on my priest for, it felt like forever. Just all of it came out at once. And God love Father Ted, he did not even bat an eyelash. I told him all of the blaspheming, all of the nastiness I did, and he didn't even flinch. And I got my penance. I did my penance, and I received the Eucharist. And he said, "You have to receive these two sacraments on a regular basis. This isn't a one-time thing. It's repetition that's going to amend your life and build the good habits and keep bad things away." And he sent me on my way with some holy water to bless my house and all that good stuff. So, I'm definitely thankful for those two things. But yes, cannot overstate the importance of the sacraments or overstate the power of prayer. I have a rosary on me at all times. I say it almost every day. I pray. I have apps on my phone that tell me about when to pray, how to pray, etc. It's amazing what you can do nowadays. But yeah, I'm always trying to keep that in mind, between that and scripture, of course. Yeah, it's you have to balance all of those things if you want to keep going and in a good conversion experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I know you're helping so many people, and you've helped me too, just when I listen to you talk and see your posts and your blog and everything like that. It really is directed toward people who are tempted, right? I mean, isn't that what it's about? It's people who are tempted to not believe, tempted to go on the darker side of life. But we know that God is always leading us, right? He's always leading us back. And that's what he did with you, is he led you back away from depression, away from evil. And I know that he's continuing to do that with you every single day. And I love to hear how your prayer life has really made an impact. Talk to us more about that, because I know that your prayer life really is an important thing in your life every single day. So tell us more about like what you do and how you stay close to God daily.
Well, thank God you can say the rosary and while you're driving, and it still counts. I count on my fingers, because I believe it was Blessed Sheen that said, your car can be your own monastic cell if you so choose it to be. And so that's advice I took to heart, quite literally. So I pray in the car. I have spindles of Gregorian chant. I have faith music. I have actually just ordered some CDs from my good friend Anne Nuzzo. She's wonderful. So yeah, sacred music is always a good thing. I read spiritual books when I have the time. The writings of the saints, especially my other patron, Saint Charbel Malakov, the patron saint of Lebanon. His Light of All Lights, I believe is the title of it, is it's an exceptional work. I highly recommend it.
Well, that sounds really good. You have me interested, definitely. So now tell us, people who are watching and listening, how they can get in touch with you. Now we're going to review this during our second half, but I would love for them, if they got their phones there, to learn about the work that you're doing. Please tell us more.
Okay, well, you can hit me up on Facebook. You can find me at Brian Caley or at the Behold Project. It's its own group on Facebook, or you can find me at thebeholdproject.com. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter if you're so inclined.
Yeah. You have a beautiful, beautiful ministry. Could you give some advice? I know we have some parents that are watching, parents to young kids, maybe teenagers or preteens, who their kids are starting to delve into some of the things that you got involved in. Is there something that they can do to help for their kids to stay away from that, a way that they can pray? Just what advice can you give them so that if their kids are delving into the things that you got involved in, that they can help?
Well, first and foremost, pray for their conversion, because the decision's ultimately going to be up to them, and God's going to do everything he can to try to influence their decision, but he's not going to make them turn away from it. That's ultimately their decision. But yeah, definitely pray for their conversion. And if, like I said earlier, if you know someone who's into that sort of thing, specifically like what materials like they're into, like what they're reading, what they're listening to, etc. Just get involved. Ask them, hey, where's this coming from? Why is this? And just try to lead them away from that and into better, cleaner spiritual habits. Try to replace the satanic music with something a little less spiritually grating. And if they're reading like satanic literature or what have you, you can ask them where that's coming from and try to say, well, you have the actual Bible right here. Well, what else do you need? What is it you're looking for? Try to see where they're coming from in their mindset and their way of thinking. Try to see like where this is coming from and where this is going, what they hope to accomplish from that sort of thing.
No, that is excellent advice. I mean, I just wondered, because I know that you understand young people who have been through this, because you yourself were there, right? You were there. What do you think enters the mind of a young person who decides to do that? Like, what do you think the core reasons are as to why they decide to get involved in this?
If I had to narrow it down, I would say, because I was thinking about this over the course of the day, I would say it narrows down to three things. First, pride. I know better. I know that God doesn't like me, and I know that this is how it is, and that's how it's going to be, and that's that. And despair. God doesn't love me, and there's nothing I can do about it, so I might as well accept it. And thirdly, excuse me, and unforgiveness. Just how can I put this? There was a point where I had to forgive myself for what I did, because I know God had already forgiven me. I didn't need to forgive God for what happened to my father. My father passed away because he didn't take good care of himself. There wasn't anything to forgive. There wasn't really anything to that. But, you have to self-forgiveness is very important. Being able to move on from whatever you think is holding you back and whatever you think is dragging you down. You can just give it to God and say, you know what, I don't want this anymore. I know you forgive me, so I forgive me. That's the best way I can explain it.
No, that's excellent advice. It really is. So thank you so much. And I do encourage people to go to thebeholdproject.com, look up Brian Caley on all the social media platforms. And, I've had some wonderful guests on the show. I was going to say on Sowing Hope too, which is the podcast, but on Journeys in Faith. And Brian is a friend. I mean, he really is. He's a friend of mine, a friend of the Fiat Ministry Network, and he's a friend of the Patchwork Heart Ministry, which is Bill Snyder, who I host the podcast with. So, Brian, thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it greatly. Now, we do have to take a short break. So when we come back, we're going to find out more about the work that Brian is doing right now. So do join us in just a few minutes here on Journeys in Faith. Hi, my name is Anne DeSantis, and I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. You can learn about us on our website at nonatus.org. I'm here to tell you today about two great podcasts that I hope that you will tune in. The first Tuesday of every month at 8 o'clock, we have a podcast specifically for Catholics affected by divorce. From 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, go to Philly Nonatus on YouTube to subscribe. In addition, we also have a podcast the last Thursday of every month. That's also at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for 1 hour. And that one is for families in crisis. We have some really great guests coming up soon, so hope to see you then. Please also consider the fact that you can make spiritual direction appointments with us with our spiritual moderator. All you need to do is go to our website on the contact form and just reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you and look forward to setting up an appointment. So we'd love to connect with you. Please share this video and let people know that we're there for families affected by divorce and also families in crisis. Thank you.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network present the Discover Your Mission series.
Now, I had been brought up without any prayer, without Bible, without church, nothing of that kind. And so when my father died, I became suicidally depressed. I had no desire to live. And yet, by the grace of God, whenever I got to the point of actually taking my life, I always had this interior conviction that if I took my life, I would simply find it again on the other side, and it would be permanent misery.
But it wasn't until I became a wife and a mother, and I began to try and pass my faith on to my children, that I realized that everything I knew about Jesus was memorized doctrine.
I was a good man, I was a good father, I was instilling the sacraments into my family. I was definitely not intentional. I was stuck roped in my faith.
But what kind of strength did he have? Jackie did not just have a strength of body or baseball skill. He had a strength inside of his spirit, a courageous meekness that empowered him to play the game.
And I tell him what is going on with me, and he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, no, I think this is like some sort of miracle, dude. And he's like, okay, of course, but I'll believe it when I see it. Honey, you've been trying to quit, and you've been saying this and saying that, and his big line to me is, you shouldn't say things, because I never follow through on them. And so this was week after week, month after month. He is looking at me like, this is a miracle. There is no way that you, on your own, could have done this.
So we are called to sing. All of us are called to sing. All of us are called to express ourselves and join our voice into the unity of the church. Often with my choirs, I ask them to listen to each other, to listen to the sound that they make together as one. That's what we're aiming for. Through the harmony or unison, we're aiming for a one sound.
You need to decide, what are you going to participate in? Are you going to participate in the historic Christian idea of the altar of sacrifice, which is in the Eucharist, or not?
Hi, this is Anne DeSantis. I'm the director for the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. I'm here today to tell you about a network that I am so thrilled to be a part of. It's Fiat Ministry Network, and combined with the work that I do with Patchwork Heart Ministry, I can't say enough good about Fiat Ministry Network. I'd like to invite you to go onto Facebook and also to YouTube and subscribe. You know, sometimes in this past year of 2020, there have been some issues with social media and different things and occurrences that have happened. And unfortunately, Fiat Ministry Network did have one of those occurrences happen to them on their YouTube channel. As much as you can share Fiat Ministry Network with your friends and let them know the wonderful work that they're doing, including some of the shows that I'm involved with, I would just ask you to let them know about it. So I want to thank the producer, Kent Kolhosky, and also Jennifer Sinclair, his friend and coworker that's helped to share so many of the shows and masses and other programs. So thank you again. I wish you a beautiful 2021. Don't forget to subscribe also to Patchwork Heart Ministry and to the Nonatus Foundation at our YouTube channel, which is Philly Nonatus. God bless and take care. Hi, thank you so much for joining us again here on Journeys in Faith on this Friday evening. Happy New Year. So good to be here. And I also want to remind all of you who are watching to please do subscribe to this channel here on Facebook. It's Fiat Ministry Network. The producer is Kent Kolhosky, and his assistant is Jennifer Sinclair. They're doing wonderful work. And I especially would like to ask you to please do subscribe to their YouTube channel. It's called Fiat Ministry Network once again. And they've had a little bit of issues and problems and troubles with YouTube lately. So your subscription on YouTube would mean so much to Fiat Ministry Network and also to me. So please do go right to YouTube at some point and be sure to subscribe. Now, again, I said I have an amazing guest here on this Friday evening. I have Brian Caley. He is an author and a blogger, and you can go to thebeholdproject.com and learn more about his ministry, as well on all the social media platforms. Now, during the first half of this show, Brian was sharing with all of us how he was brought to sort of the dark side of life. I mean, even as much as worshiping evil, really, and we're walking in a very bad place. But God brought him through that, and he brought him very close to his Catholic faith, where he and his wife, Ruth, are honoring God together and their family and doing some wonderful work. So, Brian, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks again for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad. So now tell us about the Behold Project. How did it start, and what have you been doing the last few years?
Well, the brainchild of the Behold Project, I was actually listening to the Catholic radio station on the way home, and Dr. Mark Stanford was talking about his one book, which names escape me right now, but basically talks about how mental illness and faith go together. They're not mutually exclusive to each other, and that set a light bulb off in my head, and I went, here's somebody that actually gets it. So from that, I kind of spun off of, well, if there's somebody else out there who believes that this can go together, then let's write about it and see if we can reach some other people and see what we can do to get other people involved and see what we can do to help people with this. And so the Behold Project was born. The idea for the name of it actually came when I was in adoration. I'm not clever enough to come up with that name by myself, as I like to tell people, but yeah, it's I started out with a just by myself, and eventually I had a team assembled over the course of the year. Eventually my team went their separate ways, so it's just back to me right now, but that's okay. And we're just going to see what the year holds. Just going to be putting up new and exciting content. Hopefully we'll get some new authors, new contributors over the course of the year. The site has lots of different links and resources you can check out. You can check out my writing. You can check out other people's writing, and there's links to other people's work too. And I have to put your page on there somewhere. So, yeah, definitely we'll make that happen. And yeah, we're just going to see where it goes from there.
Oh, that's good. And thank you for offering to put my link there for Journeys in Faith. And also, if you could, for the St. Raymond Annatis Foundation, where we help families in crisis. So thank you so much, Brian.
Yeah, most stuff.
Now, I know that you've met some really wonderful, wonderful people along the way through your work. Tell us about that, because I know that meeting these great people that you've met through Smart Catholics and through other venues has really helped to grow your ministry.
I can't thank them enough. They're my second or third support network after my wife and all my other friends here in Pennsylvania. I have to give a shout out to you and Bill, of course. Lovely people. Round of applause. Yay.
Thank you.
And my buddy Will Hemsworth. He's my muse and teacher with blogging and things. We've batted ideas back and forth. We've contributed to each other. Also, shout out to my buddy Matt. I can never pronounce his last name. Shikakron. Probably mangled that, but that's okay. He's also a prominent blogger, been at it a long time. He's very good at it. And he's helped me along with things. And Dominic at Smart Catholics, lovely guy. Everybody I've met there, Crystal, Auntie M, etc. So,
Yeah, Smart Catholics is amazing. Yes.
And also extra shout out to my folks at the Catholics with Depression Facebook group. You can't ask for better people. That's actually where I met William Hemsworth and my buddy Eric Anthony. He's the moderator on there. He and I have had many conversations over the course of the last few years. So yeah, it's been an amazing ride. I'm looking forward to just meeting more people and seeing where things go.
Yeah,
there's a lot, because there's a lot more than what I just mentioned. But
I know it's hard to think of every single person, because when you're in this network of wonderful Catholic speakers and authors and new friends, right? I mean, it's just a beautiful thing. So I also thank William Hemsworth. I know you mentioned him a few times, because he's been a guest here on Journeys in Faith and also on my podcast, Sowing Hope with Bill Snyder. So thank you, Brian, for mentioning. It's the friendships that we meet along the way. Aren't they just the blessing of all of this? It's just such a wonderful, beautiful blessing.
Yeah, I think I said it after the conference of God is Mercy. I was like, man, I feel like I'm out of my depth here. I mean, all of you guys are so well-spoken, such great writers and things. I was like, wow, do I really belong here? And you guys have really gone out of your way to make me feel welcome in this little Catholic community. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Thank you very much.
No, you're incredible, Brian. I mean, I'm so blessed, and I hope to have you back here again here on on Journeys in Faith and on the podcast, Sowing Hope. So that'll be wonderful. So going back to what you were saying about walking on the evil side and how parents can keep their eyes open to what's going on in their children's lives. The same thing can happen to a spouse. You can see that your spouse is going into a depression or something's going on. Is there any advice that you can give to husbands or wives that have a spouse who they're suspicious of maybe either leaving the faith or going into despair or depression, or maybe even walking on that evil side?
Well, first and foremost, be that pain in the butt husband or wife that asks, and just keep at it. Don't let something like that go forever, because it's just not going to end well. There are days when I have to again give a shout out to my lovely wife Ruth. She does not miss a trick. I do not. I'm basically not allowed to stay in a depressive state for longer than a few hours. So
thank you, Ruth.
Yes, Yes, she's wonderful in that respect. But yeah, all kidding aside, yeah, definitely, I would say if you know how your spouse thinks and there's a sudden deviation from that, yeah, that's definitely something you want to be concerned with, and definitely something you want to help out with, get to the bottom of. And there's no shame in going to marriage counseling either. I know there's a particular stigma with that, but no, don't feel bad about doing that.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful advice. It really is. Now, you speak so highly of your wife, Ruth. I look forward to meeting her someday, I hope. And so on the positive side of all of that, what good marriage advice can you give for people who are watching and thinking, wow, I wish my marriage was as good as his? What are some points that you can give to stay close to your spouse and grow in faith?
Be prepared that it's not always going to be sunshine and lollipops. There have been days where uh, Ruth and I were just been like, oh, but days like that are going to happen, and it's okay. But the point is, you move back away from that, and you say, I love this person. I married this person. I did it for a reason. I made a vow before the creator of the universe that I'm going to stay with this person through thick and thin. And that is something you have to stick with. If you're, not now, I'm not saying, stay with a person if they're abusive, blah, etc. That's a whole different ball of wax. But, in general, you married that person for a reason, and staying with that person is probably going to be in your best interest because you love that person, they love you, you belong together, and God put you together for a reason.
No, that's beautiful. It really is. It's very good marriage advice. How about for once the kids come along into your life, that as you want them to grow and learn about God and not go into that direction? Now, we talked a little bit about that before, but what can people do at the beginning of their child's life to make sure that it is going in a good direction?
Okay, well, full disclosure, I am not a father, so this is entirely conjecture on my part. But if I were a father, I would say
Yes.
just not necessarily be up their behinds about what they're doing, but definitely be cognizant of what they're doing. Give them the freedom to do what it is they need to do, but at the same time, kind of keep it in the back of your mind, like what's going on and what their thought patterns and processes are.
No, that's excellent advice. And I know you're not a dad yet, but you've been there, right? I mean, you have been in that spot, you yourself, where you decided not to follow in the ways of God. But thank God you are where you are right now. But I know you never take that for granted. I know that you never take for granted that your faith is the most valuable gift in your life, and your relationship with your wife and your good friends too.
Yeah, you definitely touched on something there that I definitely want to bring up now that you mentioned
Please.
it. Don't take your spouse for granted, ever, ever, because that part, they could be hit by a bus the next day for all that you know. Don't ever be like, oh, they're always going to be there, they're always going to take me, they're always going to accept my bad behavior, etc., because that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice as we go into 2021. So tell us about what's coming for you this year. Now, I know that you don't know exactly how God's going to unfold everything, but please do tell us some of the plans that you have and some of the collaborative efforts.
Well, I just plan on doing things bigger and better, seeing where the Spirit leads me. I want to talk on many podcasts and interview pieces as possible. I have this fancy webcam now. Maybe I'll shoot some YouTube videos or a podcast or two at some point and see where that goes. And yeah, just very open to where God is leading me, and where my marriage goes and where my professional life goes, because all of those things are in a good place finally. So hopefully they stay that way.
No, that's amazing. And I think that you will be a Catholic speaker again, as some great things are going to be happening with smart Catholics. And you're going to be also speaking with the foundation that I represent, the St. Raymond Onotis Foundation. I know you and I talked about that, and we'll be setting a date for so that you can talk to some of our clients and people that we have on our YouTube channel. And just want to ask people to subscribe to our own YouTube channel there for the St. Raymond Foundation at Philly Nonatus. So please do, and thank you so much. So now let's go back to prayer. You said that you love the rosary. Are there any other methods of prayer that you really like a lot?
Another favorite of mine is the Chaplet of Seven Sorrows, because I believe that Mother Mary is very close to those of us with mental illness and those of us that have been in that dark place. In the guise of the Lady of Seven Sorrows, you know, she went through, you know, not clinical depression or clinical anxiety, but definitely she's been there. And you know, just because she was born sinless doesn't mean she wasn't tempted either. It was just, but it was just an unbelievable thing that, you know, the Mother of God is that close to us. So yeah, the Seven Sorrows Chaplet, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that would be great. So please do Google that, the Seven Sorrows Chaplet. That's incredible. And now we're coming out of this pandemic, and I know it's affected not only you and I, but all of us, everybody who's watching this show. And people haven't been going to Mass as much. Now, Mass is open for most people in most states, cities, archdioceses, dioceses. But some have decided, hey, you know, it's not quite safe for me to go back. Do you have any words of advice to them who are kind of afraid to go back?
If you don't feel safe, don't do it. Because if you're going to sit at Mass in a state of anxiety and not give the Eucharist and God all of the attention and love it deserves, you know, it's okay. You know, God understands completely. Go home, stream it, you know, catch it on a replay somewhere. Just keep that as part of your life in somehow, some way. You know, don't feel, if, you know, you can even check with your local bishop and things and see, you know, what their stance on things are. You know, they're definitely there to help you answer questions, and your priest can also point you in the right direction. But yeah, nobody wants to feel like they're pushing you into something where you don't feel safe, or you feel anxious, or you don't feel like you're comfortable with something. You know, that's not the way the church wants to operate, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I know in so many of the archdioceses that they say that if you're not feeling well, you know, you certainly do not need to come back to church quite yet, because it's not obligatory at this point. But I will say that I think many people, including myself, are really waiting and hoping to, you know, be able to, that everyone would be back at Mass. So that we're all anticipating, right? I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. And we will see what happens with this upcoming Lenten and Easter season, you know, exactly what's happening in our country in terms of Mass and our faith. But for those people who have felt away from their faith during this pandemic, would you have any words of advice for them to kind of get themselves back to wanting to participate?
It's one of those things you have to orient your energies to want to do it. You know, once you get in a pattern of, oh, I'm not going to Mass, you know, I don't feel like going, or I'm not going because of the pandemic and I don't want to stream it because of whatever, you know, once you get in that thought pattern, it's going to be a pattern you have to break once, if you want to keep a good faith life going. So again, don't give the devil a foothold. You know, go do whatever it is you need to do to keep Mass as part of your life.
No. So important, so important. And I know that you're probably looking forward to it getting back to normal, but you're right. It's a good point to say that, you know, it hasn't been lifted yet, right? I mean, it's still not obligatory. So we do pray that once that happens and things are back to normal after the pandemic. So thanks so much for sharing on that. You've shared on so many topics during the show. Is there anything else that you want to you know, share your thoughts and feelings on for people who are sort of struggling at this time?
I want to give a special shout out I know we've talked about this previously, but my lovely wife is a nurse, a frontline worker, as they're now called. I want to give a shout out to all the frontline workers out there, because I've talked to so many of them over the course of my ministry, and they're all really tired, really struggling, really fed up with a lot of things. So if you see one of them, give them an air hug, something. Just share the love, because they definitely need it.
No, that is a wonderful thing to hear, because whether it's your doctor, your dentist, whether it's the people that work at the grocery store, people who work in all of those areas that we know we need them so badly in our society to just to keep going. So I just want to say personally, I thank you. We thank you. Fiat Ministry is so grateful to you. And Brian, I'm so glad that you brought that up. So just excellent advice. Now, I wondered also, as we're kind of heading a little toward the end of the show, for people who are not members of the Catholic Church and maybe contemplating, do I want to be Catholic? Do I want to enter into this religion? Would you have anything to say to them?
Definitely read up on the subject. There's any number of books and literature as to introductory steps to the Catholic faith. Personally, I recommend Gus Lloyd's series, A Minute in the Church. That is a great starting point. But yeah, definitely read up on the subject. Don't just jump in and say, well, we're going to see what happened. You are allowed to go in with an informed faith and an informed conscience as to whether you want to be Catholic or not.
No, that's very, very good. So also, what do you like personally? What do you like personally the most about being Catholic?
Just the authenticity of it, just to be able to say that you are part of the faith that Jesus Christ started in the year 33 AD when he said, go and preach the gospel and tell the others. It's just the sheer history and the tradition and the lineage that stretches back 2,000 years, and say you're a part of that. It's just mind-blowing to think about it. The Catholic Church is the oldest surviving social institution in the history of humankind. That is a monumental achievement.
Yeah, it's so much to ponder, isn't it? And especially when we think about the Eucharist, because it really is the source and summit, isn't it?
Oh, very much so.
Of our faith.
It's something that I personally believe needs to be taught more of, because I believe a recent Pew Research study said something to the effect of that over half of Catholics don't believe it's only symbolic. It's not the real body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ that's sitting up there. But that is the case. A miracle happens every single Mass, and you get to not only witness it but participate in it when you walk up to the altar and the priest says the body of Christ and so on. So it's something very, very special and something that should be revered. Absolutely.
Yeah, and here we just ended Advent and we're in the Christmas season now. So Merry Christmas to everyone watching. Don't forget, we're still in the Christmas season. So that's such an amazing thing. But pretty soon, before we know it, we will be into Lent, right? We'll be in Lent and then getting ready to celebrate Easter. What are your thoughts about Lent? Is there any practice that you like to do during Lent to focus on God?
Normally on my Kindle, they come out with Lenten devotionals that you can download for like 99 cents or what have you. And you can just go through like 40 days of different reflections, different thought processes and things. That's one thing I've been doing. I also like to read a little extra during Lenten season. Last Lent, I read the 33 Days to Greater Glory, which is a great book about devotion to God the Father. So highly recommend that.
Brian, it's been such a pleasure to have you on Journeys in Faith. And, we're coming to a close of the show. I wondered if you could give some final thoughts on your life, but also on ways that people can grow in faith, especially those who have been depressed, have anxiety, or have gone into sort of that dark side of life.
Just to remember always that God is infinitely loving and infinitely merciful. Never forget that he is always reaching out to you and just waiting for you to come home, just like the prodigal son. And also that, to keep good habits, a good faith life, and it takes work. It's not an easy thing. Jesus never promised that the faith life would be easy, but the returns and the rewards are definitely worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've been an amazing guest. And I just want to mention that I would love to have you back here on Journeys in Faith and on Sowing Hope podcast with my co-host, Bill Snyder. And that would be amazing as we come into 2021. Here we are, January 1st, right? I mean, this is the beginning of a new year. I'm so blessed that you could be our first guest as we're entering into this beautiful new year.
Yes, very excited about that. Woohoo!
Yay! Woohoo! Woohoo! So again, Brian, thank you so much for joining me here on Journeys in Faith. And I just want to make that shout out again to people who are watching to please do like and subscribe to Fiat Ministry Network. You also watched a video during this show for an opportunity called Discover Your Mission. And if you go to patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry, there's a wonderful opportunity to get a church ministry brought directly to your phone as a digital download. So please do that. There's some wonderful speakers coming in 2021 to Patchwork Heart Ministry. So I'm so excited. And again, please do join us next week here on Journeys in Faith. God bless.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.